There's a lie we've been sold since childhood, a lie so deeply embedded in our culture that, honestly, questioning it feels like betrayal. That lie is this: quitters never win, and winners never quit. But what if I told you that some of the most successful people in history, the innovators, the visionaries, the ones who changed the world, became great precisely because they knew when to quit? What if the very thing holding you back from your breakthrough isn't lack of effort, discipline, or persistence, but your inability to walk away from something that's already dead? Before you skip ahead, let me warn you, if you're in a rush, watch this at double speed, but don't skip a single section. Skipping any part would be like taking half a dose of medicine for a deadly infection. You'll feel like you're healing, but the poison remains, slowly killing you from the inside. Every word in this video is precisely placed to dismantle a cognitive trap that's probably costing you years of your life right now. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the world's smartest people quit often and strategically, why your stubbornness might be your greatest weakness disguised as strength, and most importantly, you'll learn the exact framework to know when to hold on and when to let go. This isn't about giving up. This is about giving yourself permission to win. Let's begin with a story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about persistence. The year was 2000. A company was hemorrhaging money, bleeding nearly $1 billion in losses. Their core product was failing. Market share was evaporating. Investors were panicking. The board of directors gathered for an emergency meeting. The CEO stood before them with two choices clearly laid out: double down on their failing strategy, invest billions more, and hope the market would eventually turn in their favor, or pivot completely, admit defeat, and reinvent the company from scratch. Every fiber of conventional wisdom screamed, "You've already invested so much. You can't quit now." Winners persist through adversity. They had spent years building this infrastructure. Thousands of employees depended on this vision. The sunk costs were astronomical. Walking away would mean admitting that all those years, all that money, all that effort was wasted. This company was Blockbuster Video, and they chose to persist. Meanwhile, across town, a small startup was mailing DVDs to people's homes. They were losing money too. Their business model was questioned by everyone, but their CEO had been watching Blockbuster's decline with fascination. He saw an opportunity, not in persistence, but in adaptation. This CEO was Reed Hastings. His company was Netflix, and he made a decision that seemed insane at the time. He decided to quit his own business model. Netflix was a DVD by-mail service. They had built their entire infrastructure around physical discs. They had warehouses, distribution networks, relationships with postal services. The sunk costs were massive, but Hastings saw the future, streaming, and he made the brutal choice to cannibalize his own successful business before someone else did. He quit being a DVD company to become something greater. Blockbuster, trapped by their past investments, refused to quit their dying model. They're now a punchline in business school textbooks. Netflix is worth over $150 billion. The difference? One company understood a psychological trap that has destroyed empires, ended careers, and ruined countless lives. The other became its prisoner. That trap is called the sunk cost fallacy, and here's where it gets interesting. You're probably caught in it right now in multiple areas of your life, and you don't even know it. The sunk cost fallacy is a cognitive bias that causes us to continue investing in something. Time, money, emotion, energy, simply because we've already invested so much, even when all evidence screams that we should stop. It's the reason you finish a terrible movie because you've already watched 45 minutes. It's why you stay in a toxic relationship because you've already invested 3 years. It's why you complete a degree you hate because you're already halfway through. It's why entrepreneurs keep pouring money into failed businesses. Why governments continue funding doomed projects. And why you keep trying to fix that broken thing in your garage that's been sitting there for 2 years. But have you ever noticed something strange? Animals don't suffer from this. A lion chasing a gazelle will abandon the hunt the moment it realizes the energy cost exceeds the potential reward. No emotional attachment, no, but I've already run this far. Just cold, rational assessment. Humans, we're different. We're cursed with memory, ego, and narrative. We tell ourselves stories about who we are, And quitting feels like rewriting our identity. We fear looking foolish. We dread admitting we were wrong. We're terrified that walking away means all the past suffering was meaningless. Economist Richard Thaler, who won a Nobel Prize for his work on behavioral economics, demonstrated this trap in countless experiments. In one famous study, participants who paid for a gym membership used it significantly more than those who got it for free, not because they were more motivated, but because they couldn't handle the psychological pain of wasted money. They weren't going to the gym for their health. They were going to justify a past decision. Think about that. Their past self held their present self hostage. The ancient Stoics understood this millennia before modern psychology caught up. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He understood that every moment is a choice, independent of what came before. Epictetus, a slave-turned-philosopher, taught his students to distinguish between what's in their control and what isn't. The past, he argued, is unchangeable, a sunk cost of life itself. Only fools chain themselves to yesterday's decisions when today offers new choices. Eastern philosophy echoes this wisdom. Buddhism teaches the concept of non-attachment, the ability to let go without suffering. The Tao Te Ching advises, to attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day. Quitting, in this framework, isn't weakness. But Western culture, particularly American culture, has developed an almost pathological relationship with persistence. We worship stories of people who never gave up. We celebrate grit, determination, and relentlessness. We've turned persistence into a moral virtue. And here's the toxic part. We've conflated quitting the wrong thing with quitting in general. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck discovered something fascinating in her research on grit and resilience. She found that successful people don't just persist, they strategically abandon. They quit dead ends quickly so they can invest their finite energy in viable paths. It's not about working harder, it's about knowing what to work hard on. Steve Jobs understood this viscerally. When he returned to Apple in 1997, the company was dying, spreading itself thin across dozens of products. Jobs didn't persist with the existing strategy. He quit 70% of Apple's product line immediately. He killed projects people had spent years building. He made enemies. He looked ruthless. But he saved the company. By quitting what didn't matter, he could focus on what did. The research is overwhelming. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who could disengage from unattainable goals experience better well-being, fewer depressive symptoms, and less physical health problems than people who persisted stubbornly. Let that sink in. Knowing when to quit literally makes you healthier and happier, yet we're terrified of it. Why? Let me paint you two pictures, and I want you to tell me which person is wiser. Person A spends 10 years pursuing a music career. They've invested everything, money and equipment, time in practice, emotional energy, and hundreds of rejections. Every piece of evidence suggests they won't make it. No label interest, declining streaming numbers, dwindling audiences. But they persist. They take on debt. They sacrifice relationships. They tell themselves, winners never quit. 20 years later, they're bitter, broke, and resentful, working a job they hate, their best years behind them, wondering what could have been if they'd just tried a little harder. Person B spends 3 years pursuing a music career with the same passion. But they set clear criteria for success and failure. When those metrics aren't met and all strategies are exhausted, they make a conscious decision to quit. They feel the grief, mourn the dream, then redirect that energy into something new. Maybe they become a music teacher, sharing their love differently. Maybe they discover an entirely new passion. 20 years later, they're fulfilled, financially stable, and grateful they had the courage to change course. Which one is the winner? Our culture would have called person B a quitter at year 3. But person B understood something profound. Sunk costs are called sunk for a reason. They're already underwater. You can't recover them by drowning yourself trying to retrieve them. Think about the Concorde jet. a supersonic passenger plane developed jointly by Britain and France in the 1960s. By the 1970s, it was clear the project was a commercial disaster. It would never be profitable. Every economic analysis said, stop building these planes. But they'd already invested billions. The political embarrassment of admitting failure was unbearable. So they kept going, pumping in more money, more resources, more time. The project became so synonymous with poor decision-making that economists literally named a cognitive bias after it, the Concorde fallacy. If this resonates, you know exactly which project in your life I'm talking about. That thing you're still doing, not because it serves you, but because you've already given it so much. The tragedy isn't just the wasted resources. The tragedy is the opportunity cost. All the things you're not doing because you're chained to something dead. While you're persisting in a career that drains your soul, you're not exploring the one that would light you up. Or while you're fixing a broken relationship that both people know is over, you're not available for the person who could actually love you well. While you're finishing that degree out of obligation, you're not pursuing the education that would actually serve your goals. Comment below if you've experienced this. You'll help others feel less alone. Sometimes seeing our own trap reflected in someone else's story is what finally gives us permission to escape. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every hour you spend on a sunk cost is an hour stolen from your future self. So how do you know? How do you distinguish between a temporary setback that requires persistence and a genuine dead end that requires abandonment? This is the question that keeps people trapped, the fear of quitting too early. So they err on the side of persistence, often for decades too long. Let me give you a framework. These are questions the world's most successful strategic thinkers ask themselves. Question 1. If I were starting from zero today, knowing everything I know now, would I choose this path again? This question strips away sunk costs instantly. You can't recover the past. You can only choose the future. If the answer is no, that's a massive red flag. Question 2. Am I persisting because of evidence that success is possible, or am I persisting because of how much I've already invested? Be brutally honest. Are you seeing tangible progress? Are the fundamentals improving? Or are you just hoping that if you suffer long enough, the universe will reward your sacrifice? Hope isn't a strategy. Pain isn't payment for future success. Question 3. What is this costing me? And is that cost worth what I'm getting? Everything has a price. Not just money, but time, health, relationships, joy, and opportunity. Calculate the real cost. Then ask, if someone offered me what I'm getting in exchange for that price, would I take the deal? Question 4. Am I persisting because I genuinely believe in this, or because I'm afraid of what quitting would say about me? Ego is the enemy of good decision-making. The fear of looking foolish, of proving critics right, of admitting you were wrong. These are terrible reasons to continue anything. Your reputation recovers. Your life doesn't always get a second chance. Question 5. What would I do if this weren't an option anymore? If this was suddenly removed from my life, what would I do next? Often, the answer to this question is what you should be doing now. We stay in defaults, jobs, relationships, cities, identities, because they're comfortable, not because they're optimal. Force yourself to imagine the alternative. Then ask why you need permission to choose it. Here's the framework in action. Annie Duke, a professional poker player turned decision strategist, wrote a book called Quit: The Power of Knowing When to Walk Away. She argues that we should treat life decisions like a good poker player treats hands, constantly reassessing whether to stay in based on current odds, not past bets. In poker, your previous losses don't change the mathematics of your current hand. A bad hand is a bad hand, regardless of how much you've already lost. Good players fold constantly. They quit most hands they're dealt. That's not weakness, that's expertise. Naval Ravikant, entrepreneur and investor, advises, pick your one thing and focus on it ruthlessly until it's done, or you've learned it won't work. Then ruthlessly cut it and move on. Notice the language. Ruthlessly. Not sadly, not reluctantly, ruthlessly. Seth Godin, marketing genius and author, distinguishes between the dip and the cul-de-sac. The dip is the hard middle part of any worthwhile pursuit. It's temporary, and pushing through leads to breakthrough. A cul-de-sac is a dead end disguised as a path. It feels like you're going somewhere, but you're actually going nowhere. Winners push through dips, winners quit cul-de-sacs immediately. Your story in the comments might be exactly what someone needs to hear. What did you finally quit that transformed your life? What do you wish you'd quit sooner? Be specific. Your courage creates courage in others. The most successful people are exceptional quitters. They just quit the right things. Let's get practical. If you're watching this and realizing you're trapped in a sunk cost right now, here's how to escape. Step 1. Name the sunk cost. Write it down. Be specific. Is it a relationship, a business, a degree, a project, or maybe a belief about yourself? You can't address what you won't acknowledge. Step 2. Separate identity from investment. You are not your past choices. You are not the money you spent, the time you invested, or the effort you gave. Those are things you did. They're not who you are. Quitting a path doesn't make you a quitter. It makes you someone capable of learning and adapting. Step 3. Feel the grief, but don't let it make your decisions. There's legitimate loss in walking away. Mourn it. Feel it. Rage against it if you need to. But, don't let those emotions dictate your future. Grief is information, not instruction. Step 4. Calculate the real cost of staying. Make it concrete. How much time are you losing? What health impact is this having? What relationships are suffering? What opportunities are you missing? What version of yourself are you not becoming? Because you're stuck here. Write down, if I continue this for 5 more years, my life will look like dash. Be honest. If that vision horrifies you, you have your answer. Step 5. Give yourself a deadline and clear criteria. One reason people stay stuck is the lack of clear exit criteria. They're just persisting indefinitely, hoping. Don't do that. Say, I will give this 6 more months. In that time, I will measure progress by these 3 specific metrics. If those metrics aren't met, I will walk away, no matter how I feel in that moment. External criteria protect you from emotional bias. Step 6. Find your quitting mentor. Surround yourself with people who've successfully quit things and rebuilt. Most of your current circle will discourage you from quitting because, honestly, your persistence makes them feel better about their own traps. So, find people who've walked away from sunk costs and thrived. Learn from their courage. Step 7. Reframe quitting as strategic allocation. You don't have infinite time, energy, or resources. Every yes to something dying is a no to something potentially alive. Quitting isn't giving up. It's redirecting your finite life force toward what actually has potential. Step 8. Create a stop doing list. Everyone has a to-do list. High performers have a stop doing list. So what projects, commitments, habits, or relationships need to end? Write them down. Then systematically quit them, one by one. Step 9. Practice small quits. You don't have to start with the big terrifying one. Try quitting the Netflix series you hate watching. Or maybe quit the hobby you're no longer enjoying. You could even quit the friendship that just drains you. Build your quitting muscle on small stakes before you tackle the big ones. Step 10. Document your reasons. When you finally quit something, write down why, in detail. Because honestly, 6 months later, when you're doubting yourself, when people are questioning you, when you're tempted to go back, you'll need to remember why you left. Your past self really needs to speak to your future self. If you've made it this far, you're serious about change. So here's what I need you to do. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. Not because I need the numbers, but because content like this, content that challenges comfortable lies, is exactly what you need more of in your feed. You're fighting against an entire culture that wants you to stay stuck. Curate your inputs wisely. And hey, share this with someone who needs to see these signs. Someone you know is trapped in a sunk cost right now, suffering silently, too afraid to walk away. Sometimes permission from an outside voice is what finally breaks the spell. Let me leave you with this. There's a Japanese art form called kintsugi, the practice of repairing broken pottery with gold. The philosophy behind it is, well, pretty profound. The breakage and repair become part of the object's history, making it more valuable than it was before. Your quits are your gold veins. Every time you have the courage to walk away from what's not working, you're not breaking yourself. You're revealing your capacity for wisdom, growth, and self-respect. The cracks in your timeline, the pivots in your story, the things you tried and left behind, these aren't failures. They're proof that you're someone who learns, adapts, and refuses to be imprisoned by their past. The most dangerous prisons are the ones we build ourselves out of sunk costs, ego, and fear of judgment. Here's what nobody tells you about quitting. It's not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your real one. Think about every person you admire, every innovator, artist, entrepreneur, leader. Now go read their biography. You'll find it's not a straight line of persistent success. It's a jagged path of strategic abandonment. They quit college, they quit jobs, they quit relationships, they quit cities, they quit versions of themselves. J.K. Rowling quit her marriage and her career before writing Harry Potter. Vera Wang quit competitive figure skating at 40 before becoming a fashion icon. Stan Lee quit dozens of comic characters and ideas before creating Spider-Man at age 43. Jeff Bezos quit a lucrative Wall Street job to sell books online. The pattern is undeniable. People who change the world know when to quit the old world. So here's my final question for you, the one that will haunt you long after this video ends. What are you refusing to quit right now that's preventing the best version of your life from emerging? Sit with that question. Don't rush past it. Don't intellectualize it away. Feel where it lands in your body. That tightness in your chest. That knot in your stomach. That flash of a specific image in your mind. That's your answer trying to speak to you. You already know what you need to quit. You've known for a while. You're just waiting for permission. Consider this your permission, not to give up on yourself, never that, but to give up on the paths that aren't serving you so you can finally walk the ones that will. The courage to quit what's wrong is the same courage that leads to everything right. Your move. If this video changed how you see persistence and quitting, drop a comment with one thing you're committing to quit or reevaluate. Your public declaration creates accountability and might inspire someone else. And remember, winners don't never quit. Winners quit the right things at the right time. That's the difference between being stubborn and being strategic, between being trapped and being free. Now go. Your future self is waiting for you to let go.